All right, guys, welcome back to Surviving Hollywood. I'm Johnny Ray Diaz.
I'm Aaron Arnold.
I'm Austin Arnold.
And if you didn't make it to the Pasadena Film Festival, I'm sorry. You probably then missed the best short at the festival, which was Bobby, written, directed, and starring Henry Burge, who just joined us on the podcast. And what did you guys think of the short itself?
I mean, we all walked out of that block saying this was the best short. Like everything was, the cinematography was beautiful, the acting was beautiful. We all walked out of there saying, man, this is the one to beat thus far.
Yeah, it was on a totally different level, and I loved it. I love the vibe of it, the cinematography, showing off the city of LA, the grittiness of it, the characters. I loved it. So it's cool to have Henry on the podcast to talk about the actual filmmaking of it, what he expected going in, how much the budget was to get something of that high quality, what winning looked like to him, or what he envisioned, success was when he first started, and, everything that came out of making this great short as he's been shopping around to different festivals. So it was really cool to get his perspective.
I think it's cool also to see a short of that caliber, like in a festival. And I think we all sort of deep down that's what we aspire to, right? You know what I mean? Like when you make a film, you're like, man, if it only looked like this.
100%.
Right? I think when we make a movie, that's what we aspire to, right?
I thought ours did look like that.
Oh, it didn't? Oh.
I mean, it looked like a Scorsese scene. It looked like a Paul Thomas Anderson scene.
Right. It felt like a high budget production, and like it had all the bells and whistles and everything about it. Like kind of like how Aaron said, it checked off all the boxes of a quality film. And it was cool that he also talked about how when it played in Santa Barbara Film Festival, got approached by UTA. I mean, that's the dream, right?
That's the dream. That is what you want. The ultimate goal is for people to see it, and obviously a high agency, if they see it, that's the better. And that's what happened to him at Santa Barbara, which is honestly one of the main reasons I wanted to pick his brain today.
Anywho, if you're watching this on YouTube, give the video a like, comment below. If you're watching it on iTunes, leave a 5-star review. And that being said, let's get into it. This is an interview that you do not want to miss. Things get real.
Hollywood, Hollywood, Hollywood. Tell me what it's like to live in Hollywood. Hollywood, Hollywood, Hollywood. Tell me what it's like to live a life in Hollywood. I'ma survive. I'ma survive. I'ma survive. I'ma survive. Hollywood.
How's the day going for you?
It's good. Yeah, it's good. I just rushed back. My son had a flag football game, so I went and caught the kind of the tail end of it, and then got back.
Nice.
So, yeah.
How many touchdowns did he get?
He actually didn't, but they played the older team, and they were he's in 6th grade, and they played the 7th and 8th grade team, and they were basically tied him. So I was like, let's go.
Oh,
awesome.
Dude, there you go.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Athlete in the future. All right, I like it. Nice, man. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.
I know we had kind of talked a little bit about at the gala and stuff like that. So we kind of wanted to just talk about your short. All of us really liked yours. We thought definitely best short at Piff was what you guys definitely should have won. So
thank you very much.
You guys did such a good job with it. I guess to kind of set it up, just for our audience and stuff like that, maybe just tell us a little bit about what the short was about.
Yeah. So you mean just the process and kind of getting to the idea of the story, or just?
Well, just maybe the actual story itself.
Yeah. So the story itself is a guy who works at an old time diner named Charlie. Basically gets a visit from someone from his past, and he has 24 hours to find this family member, this friend. And so he goes through this huge odyssey, through the whole entire city of LA, and goes through all these corridors in order to find Bobby, which is the name of the movie. So he has 24 hours to find Bobby. And the movie is ultimately about family and, just the gumption to what you would do for a family member, no matter the cost.
And you were the actor, the lead actor, and the writer and the director. So is the main love acting, or is it writing, and the others just further the other?
That's a good question. I always like to say I like being the fork, the spoon, and the knife. And so you eat ice cream with a spoon, and then you eat salad with a fork. So it just depends on what meal I'm getting served.
You gotta get a spork, man. What about the spork?
Yeah, the spork is even better. No, I think ultimately, I went to school at Cal Arts for performance, and so Austin, I love the medium of acting. I really do. I have a good relationship with it, I feel. But ultimately, I like to tell stories, and I really like writing and directing, and I think that's what I would like to continue moving on towards is behind the camera in that sense. And then maybe every now and again, sneak yourself in there and put yourself in a movie or something.
That's the way to do it.
Exactly.
M. Night Shyamalan does it. Tarantino,
right.
Why
right.
not?
Totally.
So, and we had the opportunity, of course, to meet you at Pasadena Film Festival, and you guys obviously won Best Short. The short itself, where did the idea originate, or where did that sort of inspiration kind of come from?
I think ultimately my first goal was I think the short film medium is one of the coolest things actually in the genre of film. Steve McQueen, the director, not the actor, he said it's sometimes easier to make an epic poem than a small haiku. And I always liked that idea about, landing the point, having these characters really matter, and, telling this broad, huge story and having an opinion about something in such a short amount of time is very challenging. And that's originally what I think I went after it for, because I was like, okay, I want to do this. And my goal was to really try to do a beginning, middle, and end, kind of like a condensed feature in 17 minutes. Which is, harder said than done. But then it was what's the inspiration? And my inspiration has always been the city that I've lived in, which is LA. Being born and raised here, I have a fascination with everything about it. The people. I think LA's the city itself is such a character. So what I set out to do was, okay, well, what's the landscape of LA? What kind of story do you want to tell with that? And so that brought me on to thinking about a lot of the situations in LA, which a lot of people are talking about, but not really, is the homeless, community. There's the drugs, which is, very big part of this community as well, and crime and stuff. So I was like, well, let's bring that all together, try to show a real depiction of this kind of underground LA. And then, go with it from there. So ultimately it was the city that definitely gave me the inspiration.
The short itself obviously felt like almost like a small piece of like something bigger.
Yeah.
Was it set to be more of like a feature essentially?
Yeah. So, I kind of tried to trim it enough for like, that would be the feature. When the girls who came to audition for Bobby, the character who plays my sister, she's got, like 2 lines in the whole entire film. But to get that actress, I really wanted to write a scene. And so I wrote like a 3-page scene that's her and Bobby and her and Charlie talking, first off in the diner. And that kind of got me to write a bunch of other scenes. So yeah, there's a ton of scenes that I have that aren't necessarily in terms of a full feature, but it did bring me on to write what I'm trying to currently shopping right now to production houses and stuff, is this pilot, which is called The Watch Thieves, which lives similar world, similar style. It's about 2 brothers who in the 70s in San Francisco that robbed pawn shops, and they used the money to go into underground boxing. I did this research about it, and the stolen watches is like $1 billion industry. And I was like, okay. So I did a ton of research, and where do they get stolen? And so anyway, so that's kind of my feature, Bobby, is The Watch Thieves, which is like, it would be an anthology that maybe we meet Charlie somehow in there, but yeah.
That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
So I think this was probably like everybody was clocking this. This is why I won Best Short. This is something we all enjoyed. It's like, if you had a rubric for everything a good film should have, your film was checking off the boxes: story, acting, set design, audio, cinematography, all that stuff was on point. It was impressive. It was fun to watch. You must have done this before. Like, how far into your movie making career are you actually producing your own stuff? Because I imagine to get that level of just that level, it's hard to do. You can't do that your first time.
Well, thank you for that compliment. And as you know, on our film set, it's, it is 1,000 moving parts that actually make it. You know, it's not just one person, the writer or the director or the actor. It's basically picking really good people to make you look good. You know, and so with that, yeah, I grew up doing a lot of, I grew up in LA, and I think my first glimpse of the film stuff was I filmed skate videos. And so I had a big like kind of love for that type of moving picture. And so that was obviously small scale, but then moving forward, once I went to Cal Arts, you know, I was able to be on some really cool sets, and then in the commercial world as well. So I feel like I tried to just really pay attention to kind of how things were run. And I knew that it was my job as the director, and you know, to know every single moving part and to know every single answer for every question. And I had my producing partners, Travers Jacobs and Costa Simoniello. They were not only, you know, creatively on board with it, they're also my friends. So it was a neat kind of relationship, because when we were, you know, getting in right in the beginning of pre-pro, we went super hard. And like, if we're going to do this, let's take this very seriously. You know, this isn't three buddies making this short. Let's make the best movie we can. I mean, let's do this story justice. And so for me, originally, I actually wasn't even thinking of being in it as an actor. I was like, I think it could be a cool idea, but I just want to focus on the directing and the writing and producing part. And then the further along we got to it, and the more I knew how much I'd lived with Charlie and, you know, really focus on that, then I knew I was going to take that route, which made the prep for everything have to be a notch higher, because I didn't want to be on set getting ready for a scene and not knowing, you know, where the camera's going to be. So I actually storyboarded the entire film, you know, like 6 months beforehand. We made these huge mood boards. If you go on Instagram, it's pretty cool. Actually, we have like an account, Bobby Short Film. You can see all the mood boards, and we made, I mean, hundreds of these mood boards. And so I knew the tone and the feel. And then Tim Stewart, who was our production designer, is just amazing. I mean, the homeless set, for instance, that he built that. You know, he built the homeless set, and
that looks so legit.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, this is, I mean, for all of us that live in LA, like, I'm like, I drive past this all the time.
100%.
You know?
We're also used to it. And so, but anyways, it was, it was definitely just really focusing on knowing exactly how I wanted the directing to go, how I wanted, you know, the shots to be. And of course, things change and it deviates when you're on set. But having that backbone of all that prep, you know, I mean, I prepped just hours and hours a day for weeks before. So I think a lot of that prep, Aaron, that's what ultimately helped run a very smooth ship when we were shooting. And, you know, things like any set that happens, you know, things go crazy and things change. I mean, we didn't have a permit for that homeless set. You know, I just knew we had which was a huge gamble. Day one, I just knew we had this big, huge presence. We had, you know, 2 film trucks, 60 people. And I was like, if Film LA is going to come and like try to, you know, basically tell us to stop, I'm like, what are you talking about? So a cop pulls up, you know, day one. I'm like, yep, it's over. There it goes down the drain, you know. There goes. And he's like, oh, what's the TV show? And I was like, yeah, it'll be, you know. So we did some things a little backwards and unorthodox, but we just knew with the presence was to just pick a great crew. And honestly, the crew was phenomenal. And the crew was also a bunch of asks. You know, these were people who were doing it at lower rate. You know, Matthew Pierce, who was the Steadicam camera operator, he was a good friend of mine. And I asked, and he just so happened to not be on a film, and he knew that originally I was like, it's so important that it has a lot of this kind of the fluid movement and the Steadicam, because he's going through all these corridors. I want it to feel like we're taking the audience with us. They can't leave. They have to come in like this beautiful kind of movement with like the juxtaposing of the dark world. And so he, you know, did a phenomenal job. And Travers, the cinematography, I mean, it's just absolutely gorgeous. He knows how to really, you know, go above and beyond, and sometimes a little bit to my chagrin, because it's like, all right, dude, we got dialogue.
He's like, no, but this shot's so pretty. Don't worry about it.
But no, so yeah, just with that, thank you. But it was definitely the crew was you know, super, super invaluable.
So talking about the crew, I know when we kind of chatted a little bit at the gala, you mentioned that the crew was obviously pretty large, and obviously the cops saw you guys, so he assumed you were a TV show. Like, how many people did you guys have on set? And like, if you don't mind sharing, this obviously sounded like a bigger budget type of thing. Like, what was the budget on that?
The budget started at 30,000 and then ended up going to 40. And we got and we did, and this was again, I mean, the movie should have cost like $200,000 because of the things that we got for, and that doesn't mean paying someone less. It's like the diner, for instance, that took us, a month to get. We were getting quotes from diners everywhere around town that was, $15,000 for one day. And it's like, that's the budget of the movie.
Wow.
The bar was the same thing. It was funny because my producer Costa is like, okay, well, so you want to shoot a movie in LA, you need a bar, a diner, outdoor homeless, and this heroin den. He's like, what's the problem? I don't want to do it anymore. No, he's like, that's going to be really hard. So you had to be super, you had to just be very smart with how you're going to do it. But moving forward with the crew, we had, again, these were just friends and stuff that we had a lot of PAs, because consisting of, it's every set wants a lot of, PAs. That's just extra work, extra hands on deck. And Travers, the DP, he built out his whole crew, on his side with the first AC, second AC. And then the first AD was a guy named Ryan Love, who was one of our great buddies, who ran such a great set and was invaluable again. So we actually, so we had a bunch. I'd say that on the law, probably the most people there on one day was counting extras was probably around, like 60 to 60, 65, I'd say.
Yeah, it's a big set.
Wow.
Like 20 extras, but like more or less on set it was around like 40. Yeah, let's say 40 to 50, I think. But believe it. Yeah, that's probably sounds about right. And then all the posts too. I mean, not counting.
Oh yeah. So the 40 was just like literally just production costs.
Production, yeah.
Yeah, damn. Okay.
Yeah.
It's up there.
When you go into a short film with a $30,000 budget, obviously you're like, we're going to do this right. This is going to be big. Like, what did success look like to you originally? Was it getting it in festivals? Was it like getting in front of people? Or
yeah, that's a really good question. I think ultimately, and I'm honestly not just saying this, I think in terms of a film lover was to make a movie that I wanted to watch, like to make a solid movie. And with that being said, you knew you had a decent budget, I'll give you is that my goal was for sure to do the festival circuit. It's like, okay, this is going to be where we're networking. I mean, that's how I met you, Johnny. It's like, this is what I want to do. And then ironically, a pandemic ends up happening right after we shoot the film. And so now we're holding off on it. So we finished in end of 2019, and then it was finished editing by like middle of 2020. And now you're sitting on it for basically a whole year, about like 6 months. But and then you're like, oh great, well there's all these festivals that I can't even go into anyways.
It's kind of pointless.
So we got Santa Barbara International Film Festival, which was like a super it just was such a great high for us. And unfortunately that was like all virtual, so but I think it's the style and the amount of how good your work is speaks volumes before all this bullshit of accolades and fucking awards or anything like that. It's like, if you know how to make a good story and you know how to produce a good thing, that's ultimately what you want to be able to show. So I had joked about it with my wife. I was like, babe, it's just a really expensive business card.
Better than a business card.
So
but did you have to take a second mortgage to do it though? Come on. Is that necessary?
Close, right? Yeah. Luckily I had some saving, and then, we asked some private investors who, we showed them the script and they got on board. But I'll tell you what though, shooting a movie in LA, it goes fast, that's why fortunately a lot of people are getting out of, LA to shoot. And I think it's a tall tale to the young indie filmmakers here is to really be kind of unapologetic and go for it with having a story in LA, because the backdrop of Los Angeles, you can't get that anywhere else. Even if you try to fake it in, Atlanta, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, that's what I loved about it, is like all those places you shot. I'm like, yeah, we've seen all LA River, like all the stuff that you had in there. I was like, totally LA, felt like an LA movie. You kind of touched on this a little bit, and we have a lot of filmmakers that listen to this. Funding, you obviously said you kind of had some savings and some investors. How was that process for you, and how were you able to kind of secure the?
I mean, my least favorite thing, maybe this is pride on my end, but is to ask people for money.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard.
It's hard.
Yeah.
And coming from coming from Cal Arts, where I know how, they would get funding as, a certain way where people would, just do pretty crafty things to do. So ultimately, yeah, it was just as simple as I would go and ask, a family member. I said, I don't want you to put me out, but, don't want to put you out at all. But, do you mind maybe, throwing a little bit of money to this? And it was a neat experience because, I had a good buddy of mine who was an executive producer on it, Robert Cronfley, for instance. When I went to him, it really made it real because I went to him and it wasn't about just asking for money. And I know he would support me, but I did the whole dog and pony pitch show, be like, this is what it is. This is what our goals are, and it made once you're getting these funds and this help from other people, it's like, you can't mess this up now others are involved, and it's not just about you. It's about doing this justice because you got the opportunity to do it, and you better damn well, show for it.
Yeah.
And in a way, you got the ultimate win, correct? You got signed to UTA at Santa Barbara. Is that correct?
So didn't get signed UTA, but been talking with UTA, which is great. Yeah. And hopefully in the writing world, side of it, which is nice. Cause I ultimately, yeah, I think, what you want out of it again is the reality in this industry is it's, talent alone doesn't get you there. It's a fact. The best actors in the world might literally just be in a basement somewhere. We've never seen them. But that being said, it is show business, and it's called business for a reason. And so you need these, managers and agents, who run that kind of side for it to believe in you. And ultimately, yeah, it's been great talking to UTA right there. And hopefully I'll be signed, here shortly and pushing that writing side of mine.
So the UTA rep was at the festival and saw your film and approached you?
Yes, exactly. And they were not, unfortunately, live, but
it was a Zoom, right? Because you said it was a Zoom.
Yeah. So what happened was
I can't believe people go to those.
Yeah, no. So what it was it wasn't a Zoom one. He saw the film online and then approached me based on that. Yeah.
Gotcha.
That's awesome.
Gotcha.
Yeah, which is cool. Yeah.
You never know who's watching.
That's exactly it, right? Yeah, you never know who's watching. I always said Johnny, I forgot to do when I went up to to get the best film award.
Yeah.
I'd always promised my grandfather, rest in peace, but I had said I would go up there to any award you won. I'd say, I'd like to thank Steven Spielberg because it couldn't hurt. It was like Alec Baldwin's thing, like years ago.
Okay. Well, it's funny when they were doing those. I mean, half the thing I couldn't even hear what was going on. It was so loud in there. I was just like, is somebody winning something right now? I don't even know what's going on. Like it was interesting.
It was good.
Henry, did you see our short film or did you only go to your night?
You know what? I went to my night. That's why I'm not talking so nicely about yours. But I say I asked for the private link if that's available. Won't share it around. But I heard incredible things about it. And how was your process with that?
Ours was like a much lesser budget. It was written by Aaron, Johnny, and us were the actors in it. And like, we are primarily actors first and foremost. So we use it to further our own career. So obviously write stuff that we want to write. So this was a drama with a little bit of dark comedy in it called Instant Gratification, about how far is one wannabe influencer willing to go to gain that following online.
Right.
So it was a lot of fun. Johnny had a killer crying scene, which I think is what won him Best Actor. But it was good. Our audience has heard.
They fell for it, man. They fell for it. I'm just kidding. But no, it was cool. I mean, I directed it. These guys produced it. We produced other stuff in the past, other shorts and stuff, and they've done well at other festivals. And so again, we're admirers of talented people, great filmmakers, obviously. And my favorite thing, obviously, is to connect with the filmmakers at these events. And why I came up to you was because I saw it and I was like, dude, best short of the festival, hands down. Loved it. I got dry vibes like crazy. And it's one of my favorite movies. I think I told you that. And then man, I just really dug it. And I was like, I got to talk to you a little bit more about like the process and things like that. I've directed stuff while I'm in it. And I wanted to kind of pick your brain how that worked, because I know how it can be challenging. And usually I'll storyboard everything too, or try to be as prepared as possible with all the shots, because the last thing you want to be thinking about is like all my lines. And then now I have to like think about 10 shots I have to still have to hit, you know what I mean? So I commend you on doing that, man, on such a big scale, because it definitely is a challenge. Did you have like, was your DP pretty like trusting? They're
Yeah.
like, hey, we got it. Let's move on.
Yeah, for sure. I think I don't know if I mentioned this to you, Johnny, but one of my big caveats was I knew that we would have playback and stuff. I didn't want to watch any playback. I mean, I didn't want to get too specifically lost in like, oh, I should walk like this or I should do this. Now, if it was like a blocking thing with like the fight stuff, which, you know, you have to do it correctly because it's dangerous, you know, then I would probably watch some playback. But my biggest goal was to just to be really dialed in on everything about the character that you could kind of turn on and turn off. And I was super trusting of Travers and Costa, who I knew ultimately if I said, you know, they had it. But realistically, I mean, just we had 2-3 takes most. That's about it. You know, so you kind of had you didn't have an opportunity to kind of mess up, you know. And I'd been basically rehearsing it for the past 6 months, you know. So I was rehearsing it in my head this whole time, and I was like, okay, I'm Charlie, like, you know, just on. But the hardest thing I will say though is the directing and acting that's a challenge for sure in itself, but it was the producing side of it as well that was harder to also be the actor in it, because when there's a small fire that's going on, you know, we're down in downtown LA, and the parking lot that we're supposed to have, you know, 40 people park in is closed that day, and it's like randomly closed, and you're on set trying to figure it out, and then you're like, oh, how are we gonna get everyone parked there? Like, that's the least thing I want to be thinking of right now.
Right, I know for sure.
I want to talk to Tim Stewart, be like, hey, let's put some stuff here. You know, I want to only do creative stuff right now. Like,
right.
So that was a challenge. But
and then you got some background of being like, hey man, what's up with the coffee? What's going on here? And you're like, dude, come on, man.
It's basically 1,000 questions is what I say, you know.
Right.
And you have so many of them. But it was, I think again, the processes, and I like that you guys are all actors. I think you can appreciate, you know, it's a big thing about anything in life, and I think especially with the arts, is really to do your homework and prep. I mean, do a lot of research, you know, constantly give yourself more information about whatever you're doing. And for me with the character Charlie, you know, I got so deep into the heroin world that it was like it was dark, like you know, East Coast heroin compared to West Coast heroin, you know, what's the difference there? And there's these blogs of people talking about it, you know, seeing it with family members, and just doing the research, because it's only going to help further the performance and further the story.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, we touched on this, but I want to know, like you said, you're in talks to get signed by UTA, just in talks. It may not happen, but I think that's that is like such the dream of a filmmaker that goes to a festival. Could you share a little more on like where you are in that process, or like how come it's not happening now? Or
well, so I went to Cal Arts, and so right after Cal Arts, the way it works is you do a showcase, right? So you have a showcase scene, and agents and managers, they come to go see your acting scene, and it's like your big thing. So we have one in the East, we have one in LA, and then we have one in New York. And the one in New York was like fun. I had a good time, did the scene. Then I came back here, did the one in LA, did the scene, and then I signed with Michael Greenwald for management. He saw me. He's like, oh, I think you have some potential. You know, didn't talk to agencies. Had a meeting at Warner Brothers and like CBS, which was like with their commercial department or some TV department side. Very bizarre, because I was like, I made it. I was like, Mom, I made it. Warner Brothers, you know, never ended up talking to them again. So anyway, so the reason why I'm getting around to this long story is then I went with him, and we searched around. I had a little reel in which I like that you guys write yourself in. I think I would encourage actors, you know, to film. I mean, geez, you can make a movie with your iPhone. You know, a bad movie is never the picture. It's always the sound. And if you get the sound good, you're going to look good. You're going to sound good. You're not, you know. So I would encourage doing that, because I had done a class at Cal Arts when I was there, which we call it a debauch. after debauchery, but we did these little prompts, and we would do like, okay, you have 5 minutes. Here's the prompt. You have to have 2 characters. You have to have 1 location. You have 45 minutes to film it. Has to be, filmed within 45 minutes, have to show the footage. Then you have that night to edit together. And then on Friday we'd watch it, this is like little, basically just these small little scenes, and we got super into it. And a couple of those we then kind of elongated, and I got some good footage. So anyways, I then signed with Beth Stein and Associates and was there for, 3 years. And I had great success with them, in the commercial world. Ironically, like you leave school or you leave acting class, you're like, dude, I'm gonna be in a Scorsese movie, and then you're in a fucking Toyota commercial. Which is fine, and it's great, and you're super grateful for it, but it's just
it pays well, but yeah, I know it doesn't really move the needle. Yeah,
it's not necessarily what you thought.
Yeah,
I can't wait to be in this meaty scene, and you're like spilling ketchup on your shoes. So then I ended up leaving Beth Stein after last year, just because things kind of slowed down. So the process is always, though, I would say really get out there, send emails. There's a difference between being too persistent but just also being confident. Because even with like UTA and WME, I'm still talking like I just want to work for someone, even if it's a smaller agency too. Even a boutique agency in Venice Beach that actually has your interest in hand and can get your work or your face in front of the industry to further your career. Go with it. And ultimately those big ones do have a lot of clout to it, and that's why it's important. But ultimately for me, it's like I just want a bunch of people to be able to read my work. It's like I don't care, you care because we get no's all the time as actors, but I'd rather have the opportunity to get a no than never have it at all, and that's where you just really got to work really hard and keep kind of going forward. And whether you send your stuff to an agent or send an email, cover letters are always really good, if they're about your strengths and stuff like that. So just treat it like a business, basically.
Yeah. And how is the audience reaction, or how's the feedback you got from festivals about the short, and what other festivals have you kind of gotten into?
Yeah, we've had a really we've been really fortunate. We've had a really good run with festivals. We've like I said, the big one of like Santa Barbara was a special one. Burbank, Pasadena, we got into this New York Indie Shorts Awards in New York, which was a great one. Vegas Movie Awards, where we won Best Film. It was actually put up against David, which is a short that Will Ferrell was in. So like,
nice.
Out of all this success, like my mom finally sees a picture of like me, and then next to like a poster of Will Ferrell, she's like, quite a bit. I can't think of all of them, but yeah, when we won the New York Indie Best Director, which felt really good, and Best Production Design, which was nice. We got into Fort Lauderdale International, Genre Blast, London International, which is really neat. I think ultimately too, it is very much an LA movie, and I'm aware because it's shot in LA and it's got such an LA vibe. But what is really makes me happy is thinking of someone in London or, having in Fort Lauderdale, New York, wherever these different festivals are, kind of just seeing this little pocket of the world. I think ultimately, if you tell a good story, it doesn't need to be just good for, in America. It's a world, it could be a world story. And I think that's just more important, to share it with everyone.
Yeah, for sure.
We have about 4 or 5 minutes left of this podcast. So I want to go around the horn. We'll talk a little more off mic, but around the horn, final questions. My final question is, if you could give yourself one message before you started production, before the film festival circuit, a little advice to yourself, like what tip would you give yourself?
That's a really good question. Funny enough, I had this recording thing that you can record in, like now you can record on your phone, but this was like the Home Alone style one with the action. Yeah. And I had said before that, this was like 2 weeks before, because I was getting super nervous. I was like, don't worry, it's all gonna be okay. And I found that thing like probably 2 months ago, and you can even hear my voice quiver. I was like, but I think my would be just trust yourself. Totally trust yourself and be unapologetic, because things once you get on set and things start changing, you so many people can just kind of can kind of just break. And I think that's this fast paced kind of industry, and you're dealing with on the go kind of stuff. So just trust yourself. I say, trust yourself. That would be my advice.
That's great.
And for me, I was just kind of wondering now, what's sort of like the next step or the next thing you're kind of working on? Now you mentioned you're trying to pitch, was it a series, I think?
Yeah,
is that what you're kind of doing? Okay.
Yeah. So I think my next goal is, there's a couple routes. I write a lot, and I'm lucky. I write actually for Zedge for these short stories, which is like these text message things, which is a great workout. It's not, necessarily what I want to do forever. It's a good little side hustle. And so
Yeah.
what's nice is that I continuously write, and what I ultimately want to do is pitch stories, pitch my scripts, and that's routes obviously tough. Those can get shelved and stuff like that. And then there's also talks, with Zone 6 Films about doing an indie kind of dark comedy feature.
Nice.
Trying to get a budget for realistic budget that's doable, to be able to shoot for like 20 some days. That I wrote. It was a story I wrote that means a lot to me. It's very different than Bobby too. That was what's one funny thing is, and I'd say don't ever put yourself in a hole, like just because Bobby's this like crime kind of stylistic, like 70s kind of cinema Americana thing. I also like love the complete opposite, like indie dark comedy, or these fantasy worlds. Like I think Steven Soderbergh's a great example of who's someone who just does it so incredible, because he directs for story. No, it's not the directing of the story that is put out there. And there's people who are auteurs, like Wes Anderson stuff is Wes Anderson stuff, and it's great, and Scorsese and Paul Thomas Anderson. But it's nice to don't ever feel like you need to be in your own niche. Something's going to come out of whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huge fan of Paul Thomas Anderson. We're all huge fans of dark comedies. And, I guess just my final question is, if, something that's been written and produced, like a show or a movie, like what do you look at for influences and go, damn, I wish I could have written that. That inspires me.
I'd say those are all the movies like in the 70s for me. So Mean Streets had a huge influence to this. I think all of the old movies, I got my favorite movies, probably ironically, It's a Wonderful Life, for a lot of different reasons.
It's a Wonderful Life. I love that.
Performance, story. I mean, it's incredible, Frank Capra. But I would say something I did watch and I was like, damn, was probably the season 1 of True Detective. I was like,
good.
Like, wow. I was like, this is like, this is special. Because there's so much. I think we're maybe getting out of it, but we're definitely for some period there in the golden age of television, and it's a pretty unique thing. And seeing something like that, that's the same director, I think, who's coming out with the new Bond, but he also shot that on film, and you can see how much different that is, because the image
feels gritty. Yeah, it just feels so gritty.
It's off the screen. And that was a big reference actually to the lenses we use. We use these Lomo anamorphic lenses from the 70s. They're 1970s lenses, so we wanted that huge aspect ratio to be really wide, and you wanted to get that feel. I didn't want a movie that was going to be 5K, like in this like pixeled. And I mean, it's 2K, it looks nice, it's not HD or something, but my point is, it was very important for the grittiness of this world. You had to kind of be told through an old soul, an old camera that was able to capture that.
Yeah, I was wondering if because that aesthetic definitely felt that way, and I wasn't sure if that was camera or post that you guys did. You know what I mean? So
that was both on set with the lighting, and a lot of the production design does it. And we actually had the LUT that we used when we were filming was great, and it was everything. Actually, Travers had gotten it from working on a feature the summer before, but we had played with so many LUTs and kind of what looks we want, and that was just perfect for it. I mean, it was absolutely so cool.
What camera did you shoot it on, by the way?
So it was a ARRI Alexa.
Okay.
So a LUT, for if anyone doesn't know what it is, basically like the filter that you put in. So you film flat and then you look at the playback with the LUT on to see like the shadows and stuff like that.
Yeah, it looked really good. Well, dude, Henry, man, thank you so much for your time, man. Where can the audience find you, social media wise, and where can they see the movie coming up?
Yeah, so I'm on social media, HenB999, I think, Henry Burge. But we have the film will be, I think we're gonna maybe try to get some distribution from it, and then if not, it'll be on YouTube in the probably next like 5-6 months, just after the whole festival run. Which is exciting, and then hopefully moving on to doing something else. So we'll get back on the podcast.
Yeah, man, dude, congrats,
for
man.
sure.
Because honestly, dude, you're a really talented dude. I really look forward to seeing what you make next, because I'm definitely gonna watch it. So.
Oh well, yeah, I appreciate that. Honestly, Austin, Aaron, you too. You guys, congratulations. I'd say just keep it up. Keep the hustle. It's real, but it's good. Just move one foot in front of the other, and you got it.
There you go. Thank you, man.
Awesome.